Okay, we're going to talk today about Slovan. We moved into Slovan when I was probably 2 years old, and we had moved from the farm, which to this day I still don't know what that means. It's a story about two different places. I thought there for a while. I was born at a place called Mungais, and
well, I think we
come to
lived at
find
Mungais.
out,
I don't know either, but that's too early in our lives.
yeah, right. So So anyway, Slovan has a memory. I have my initial memories is living in a crib, and ripping and shaking and trying to get out of that crib. So I was in Slovan for, I'm guessing, 2 years. I was 2 years old to 4 years old, something like that. So go ahead. You got anything on Slovan?
Well, I have a lot of memories about that place, and none of them were good. Well, only one was good. And it still haunts me to this day. But most of it was really dirty. The road was dirty. It was red dog and dirt. The yard behind the house wasn't a yard. It didn't have any grass, as I recall. It was stones and dirt and red dog and garbage, broken glass, bottles, tin cans, and a burn pile down at the bottom to the left. And that's when you cut my hand, which you didn't know about, and you probably didn't have any recollection of it. But I still have a scar right here on between my index finger and thumb from a cut. We were down there, and I don't remember Mom or Dad being in the yard, and I call it a yard, but it was not a yard. You were down by the burn pile, and you picked up this lid, a mayonnaise jar lid, and you threw it to me, and I reached up to catch it, or duck from it, I don't remember. But there was a chunk of glass. It had still screwed onto the mayonnaise jar, but there was only some shards, and it slit open this little chunk right here, a big old chunk through there, and I ended up, oh my gosh, and bleeding like crazy, and those where I got my first stitches at 4 years old. And I knew about stitches somehow, because I didn't want them. I hope I don't have to get stitches, and yes, I did have to get stitches. I got stitches sewn in there. So that was one thing in Slovan that I recall.
Well, just along that topic, that must have been when they started showing preferential treatment to you, because you were the firstborn son. Because I have on my thumb here about a scar that's, a good 1.5 inches long that I got at Slovan when some neighbor
Oh
kid,
yeah, there it is.
yeah, with a little arrowhead. See that? That's
Yeah,
nice. Now, do you also notice, can you tell that was never stitched? See, that was just a Band-Aid, maybe, or just suck it up and it'll be okay.
You know what I think that's probably a result of?
But
I probably got this first. And there was so much screaming and crying because of stitches that they weren't going to traumatize you the same way. Traumatize them.
Well,
because I think I screamed and cried and yelled and...
Well, they traumatized me later, and when we tell stories about Burgettstown, I'll share that traumatized. They obviously forgot, but this was never stitched.
Yeah.
So I didn't have memories of stitching.
This was stitched. It was 2 or 3
Well,
of
yeah,
them.
you were the firstborn son. They tried to be a little extra careful with you.
Well, maybe
at Slovan, one of the things, I was sick a lot, probably because they made me stay in that crib over by the window that blew snow in and things.
That might be
I had pneumonia when I was at Slovan. I was in the hospital, And I remember my memory of Slovan was that I got somewhere in that time period a satin pillow. I
Oh yeah, I
loved.
remember that. You got that
I,
when you went to the hospital.
yeah, I think I don't know, but I used to love the satin, the feel of satin. The blankets used to have satin on the top of it, and I used to love rubbing it.
Yeah, you were a satin freak
I had that
for a
satin
long
pillow,
time.
and I loved it. I loved it. I to this day remember riding in the car. We were coming out of Slovan, just almost to the BP station, and well, one of the things about Slovan that we should talk about a little bit is that I looked up Slovan as far as my memory was that there was never grass, never trees, things like that. Slovan had that giant stack, Langloff, and it blew chemicals that landed on the ground. And Slovan is a Superfund cleanup location. To this day, it
Well,
is so polluted. But and that's where we lived. Dad picked a house and bought or rented a house in Slovan.
coming from Slovan toward Burgerstown, if you're going that direction. Now, if you are traveling in that car and you, back then when we lived there, when you look to the right, there was a hillside. You're driving down the valley on Route 18, and on the other side of the road is that big, it was called the Climax,
Mm-hmm.
where they made who knows what chemicals.
Yeah.
And they blew out this big old tall red and white striped smokestack. Like, yeah. On the left side was that plant. On the right side, on that hillside, there was nothing. It was dirt. Nothing would grow because apparently all those chemicals, as I look back, I didn't know then, but now I know it was all those chemicals and all of that crap. And guess which side of the hill we lived on? We lived over here on this side.
The same side, yeah. They had
For 2
really
years.
strange health habits up there. Even like they had 2 slaughterhouses that the way they got rid of all the blood and guts and things, they threw it into the creek, into the stream.
Oh yeah.
And that odor came past Burgettstown Farms in the summertime.
Pervasive.
It was brutal.
Oh,
brutal.
it was horrible.
Yes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That was just a nasty place. And had we lived there for more than 2 years, I think we'd both be dead. But we luckily only lived there for 2 years and got the hell out.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not so sure that the house, the actual structure that we moved from and to, was probably not even as nice as the house in Slovan.
Yeah.
Because
See, I have
the
no
house in
memories
Slovan
in
had
Slovan.
running water.
Well,
The house we moved to did not have running water, and it did not have an indoor toilet.
Can
of
you
course.
imagine what Dad must have told Mom? He came home from work.
I found
Now,
the perfect home, honey.
I'm moving you out of this place where there's no grass and your kids will probably die off in a couple of years. And I found this place down on 30. Now it has water, but the water's not in the house.
That's right. It's 50 yards down there. You get the boys to carry it for you.
Yeah, the boys will carry it.
That's
and,
right.
Yeah, and it had an outhouse with 2 holes. So this was not some low budget place, So,
Well,
but
if we're going to switch to that place, I can tell you that place was a nightmare as well. For me, personally. Slovan was one kind of a nightmare. Oh, the lady in Slovan who lived across it wasn't a road. When you got to that, whatever road we lived on, dead ended. And this dead end, it was like a parking lot dead end. Because there was our house, there was some other storage building, there was another garage at the end of the road, and across
fancy developments call that a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, it was a cul-de-sac, all right. It was a cul-de-sac of shit. And across the road was this old woman, and this is how nice and sweet the old woman was. There was a bird, a little sparrow, hopping around, and it couldn't fly. And I picked it up, And I just was so pleased. Now remember, I'm 4-ish, maybe approaching 5, but not 5. And I'm walking around. What do you have there? And I went over to show her, and she took it in her hands. And she said, "Aw," and she grabbed it and she twisted its neck and killed it right on the spot and said, "Here, gave it back to me." What? That was our neighbor across. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
but it was just to toughen us up.
I know.
Toughen us
yeah.
up for the future, and that whole
Whoa,
routine.
That was.
Yeah, and that was all part of your theory with my silk pillow.
Well, you know what? I think
We're riding along the road. I need to tell
back,
this story.
We're going back to the silk
Well,
pillow.
I'm
yeah.
just throwing it out there. It was like that lady to
Yeah.
me. You know, my love of a silk pillow. You roll the window down. Dad's driving along. You pitch my silk pillow out the window with the comments, "You don't need that anymore." You made a decision. Of course, I commented. I asked Father politely if he would pull over and stop, and he
Yeah,
did.
politely.
And it had already been run over. My silk pillow, I still can remember the tire track right over my silk pillow.
Yeah.
But, so
Well,
anyway.
See, and here's the other perspective. You were in the hospital, and then when they brought you home, you had this silk pillow. And you wouldn't go anywhere without the thing. You walked around the house when you were walking around, and you were dragging that silk pillow like Linus drugged that blanket. And I think you transferred it to a blanket later. But you dragged that pillow around, and then you'd put it down, and you'd go somewhere, and then you couldn't find it. Where's my... And then you would break into this screaming and crying, "I can't find my pillow, I can't." And then everything in the world would stop until we searched for your silk pillow. That went on for weeks and weeks. Now, initially, I told Mom, I said, "Get rid of it. He cries every time. If he never finds it, he'll quit crying eventually and we'll be done with it." That's what I told her. She said, "No, Tom is still getting over having pneumonia. And we have to," and there's all this, we have to be nice to Tom, and we have to. Okay, so Tom's healthy now. It's been months since Tom had pneumonia. And so we're getting ready to go, we're going to Grandma's. We can't leave. You know why we can't leave? Tom can't find his silk pillow. Once again, we have to search down the house, and everything comes to a standstill. And so I made this executive decision at 4 or 5 that Tom doesn't need this pillow anymore. It has become too much of a crutch. So I rolled the window down and chucked it out, hoping that was the last. We'll hear him cry one more time, and he'll quit crying before the time we get to Grandma's. It'll be over. No, Dad had to stop and go back and get it.
Yeah, you were buying into the old lady theory across the
Oh,
street
yeah,
with the bird. Snap! You
She-
thought, this is a good plan.
That's
We'll just
right.
apply this to my brother.
That's right, because I got over that bird. In short order, it was just maybe an hour, and I had let go of it. I hadn't forgotten it, as you know from right now, but I let go of it. So yeah, you're right. That was my perspective as a 4 or 5-year-old, and maybe some jealousy too, because you got lots of attention because you had pneumonia, you were in the hospital, you got all the attention.
I didn't have any toys.
Well-
All I had was a silk pillow, and you threw it out the window. So,
Yeah, there's that too.
all right. Well, that's Slovan.